This is the plaintiff, Cheryl Stevenson. She says the defendant is her ex-fiancée and they lived together before splitting up. Now the nasty woman won't return her rent. She has no right keeping her hard-earned money. There's no way she's going to allow her to just take her money. And she's suing for the $1,300 she's owed today. This is the defendant, Charmaine Ferguson. She says the plaintiff ended their relationship because she felt like she was being controlled, which wasn't true. The plaintiff decided to move out early. She left all her garbage in the place when she moved out, and the woman's owed nothing. She's accused of letting a lover down.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket, the plaintiff and the defendant were engaged to be married, but the whole thing blew up because of controlling issues. Now the plaintiff says the defendant owes her money for rent and other stuff and won't pay. It's the case of take control.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome, Anna.
Okay, Ms. Stevenson, you're suing Ms. Ferguson for $1,100 of a refund for rent and also $200 for a security deposit that you paid. Tell me what happened.
We met in March of 2020, and at the time I lived in Deerfield Beach, and she lived in Miami, and we would go back and forth.
Okay, what was the relationship between you two?
Engaged me.
Oh, okay, so you guys were fiancés?
Yes.
Okay, all right, and then?
And then in September of 2020, she came and helped me move out of my apartment in Deerfield Beach to Miami.
Okay.
And I lived with her. And during that time, I would pay $300, and I also pay for the rent, and I'd also pay whatever the water bill was half, whatever the light bill was half.
Okay. In October of 2021,
yes,
you get some kind of rent subsidy, and so no one's paying rent, including you, right?
Exactly.
All right. That goes on till March of 2022, and what happens in March of 2022?
The landlord sold the property.
Okay.
And it was a new landlord, and they were asking for 22. Before she was paying only $1,000.
Oh, wow. So what happens?
So we decided to stay because tried to look other places, and it wasn't happening.
So do you two break up?
No, we were still living together.
On April 1st, you get a notice that she wants you out by April 30th. This is in 2022.
So this is what happened.
So most people wouldn't consider themselves still together when they get that kind of notice. So do you guys break? Right.
That's when we broke up.
Exactly. Yeah. So how did you break up? By her giving you notice?
Out of the blue, the Thursday, the 31st of March, I cash after the $1,100, and the next morning she woke up and left, and then came back and then presented me with a notarized letter.
Okay, everybody stop a second. Let me just ask you a question. Did you two sleep in the same bed that night?
Oh, yes. Oh,
okay,
yes.
And were you fighting, or when you say out of the blue, you're all lovey-dovey and boom, she files this on you?
We weren't really lovey-dovey because we were arguing because she wanted me to pay the $1,100 before, but she was on this program to pay the rent. And so I didn't want to tie up my money, give her the $1,100 until the 1st of April when it's due. But she didn't want to wait.
No, because she already knew she was going to give you the notice, and she didn't want to cut it that close, I guess. So she gives you notice that she wants you to leave by the 30th, and then you end up leaving sooner, correct? You leave on the 5th.
I left on the 5th. Yes.
Okay, and you want your rent for April back.
Yes.
And you paid a $200 security deposit when?
The deposit.
When did you pay a $200 security deposit?
When the new people bought the place, they wanted a deposit.
Okay. Ms. Ferguson, let me hear from you.
Okay, Your Honor, we went on a cruise on the 25th of March, which was to celebrate our anniversary. Prior to us going to the cruise, I advised Ms. Stephenson that, that the rent was going up, and I reapplied for the assistant again. But the assistant never came through during the time we went up to the cruise. So that Monday we came back from the cruise, I said to to Cheryl that they didn't approve us yet for the second payment to help with the assistance of the rent. She blows up. What you mean? I didn't have no plans to pay no rent. I said, what you mean you didn't have no plans to pay the rent? I advised you before we went on the cruise that we might have had to pay the rent because the people didn't approve me yet for the assistant. Your Honor, I didn't even have to tell Cheryl about the assistant because the assistant was in my name. She wasn't even on it, only me and my daughter.
Right, but weren't you romantically involved?
I told her about it because
I'm sorry,
we was in a
stop. You
relationship.
told her about it because you were romantically involved with her and she knows what's happening in your life.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So before that, was she ever paying half of the rent?
She never paid half of the rent, Your Honor. She paid a third of the rent because she advised me that at the time my daughter was living with here before my daughter was 16, a minor at the time, and she wanted the rent to be split into 3 ways. And that's when I advised her that my daughter's not paying any rent because my daughter is a minor.
Yeah, she wants you to pay your minor's rent. All right, so here's my question to you. On the month before April, in March, how much rent did she pay?
1/3.
Okay.
1/3.
So if it was 1/3, then she was paying $333.33.
No, she was paying three something.
Okay. All right. So then here's my question to you. When did the subsidy end?
It ends in March
Of 2022?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
All right. So then when you guys got notice that the new landlord wanted to increase the rent by double, how much was the new landlord charging?
$2,200.
So even more. Did you tell her right away? Can you believe it? This landlord wants to charge $2,200. I assume you told her, right?
Yes, I told her. I told her everything, and
Okay.
the landlord.
So why is she cash apping you $1,100 if she only pays a third?
So that time when the new rent had kicked in, that's when I advised her that the rent was the kick in, and we had to go off at that point. Prior to that, she wasn't paying half.
Okay.
She was paying half now when the new rent kicked in April.
Okay,
of
so here's my
2022.
question to you. When do you tell her, hey, from now on it's half and half? When do you tell her that?
Prior to when the new lease, when I signed the new lease.
When did you sign the new lease? I don't know when that is.
Okay, that was March 8th of 2022.
All right, so you tell her she needs to pay half. She agrees that you told her that, but was still hoping that the program comes in. Then you get back from the cruise, and what happens? The program hadn't come in.
When I got back from the cruise that morning, I advised her that the people never answered me back because they were still waiting on some documentation from the new landlord to pay the assistance again. March 8th was when she paid the half of us signing the new lease. That's where she gave me the $200 because it was $399.
Did she break up with you or did you break up with her?
We both were texting back and forth because she advised me that the relationship was not working. And I told her I feel the same way. So let's separate.
On March 31st, she gives you the rent. And even though you guys are discussing that you should break up, what happens between March 25th when you bring that up and March 31st?
We wasn't speaking, but we were still sleeping in the same room. I was just leaving, going to work, and doing my normal routine.
You weren't talking to each other, but you're sleeping in the same bed?
No, we wasn't speaking. When I advised her, Your Honor, that the relationship was not working, it's time for us to move on, she said to me that, can she move into the next room and pay 1/3 of the rent? And I told her that wasn't a good idea because I just wanted to start a new life. And that's that morning before I went out on the 31st, I said to her,
well,
are you going to move
You
out?
collected the rent from her on the 31st for April, and then you gave her a notice the next day that she needed to leave on April 30th.
She cashed me the money at 2/22, Your Honor.
Yeah, and when did you give her the notice?
I gave her the notice the next day.
Right, I know, I know.
Because I left out that morning after saying to Ms. Stephenson, are you going to leave? She advised me that I would have to call the police to put her out. She wasn't leaving.
Okay. What I don't understand is the new lease that's signed with the new landlord, who signs that lease? Why is no one answering me now?
I didn't sign the lease.
You didn't. So it's
signed the
just
lease.
Ms. Ferguson who signs the lease.
It was just her.
Right.
Yeah, it was,
then you are, in fact, Ms. Ferguson's subtenant, and she can give you notice. So she gives you notice, and you don't like it. It's uncomfortable. Everybody stop talking, especially you, Ms. Ferguson. So she gives you notice. By the way, Ms. Ferguson, I do have one question for you. Do you agree that she gave you $200 for the security?
Yes, I do.
Why haven't you given that back? She already moved out.
Cheryl left my place in a disaster when she moved out. This is the first photo.
And what is it I'm supposed to see there?
Okay, this is the trash that I had to take up from the area where Miss Stephenson was living.
Did she leave those trash bags there, or were you collecting them and then you took a picture?
I was collecting the trash where she left.
Okay,
into the
do
bag
you
that I
have an
put it
actual
into.
picture of how she left it? So she left like clothes messy. Ms. Stevenson, you made the decision to leave on April 5th because it was uncomfortable, right?
On the 5th, she came to me and said, you're going to be able to leave on the 30th, right? And I said, don't worry about it, I will. She slammed the door and went outside and was yelling, for I guess for the neighbors to hear, that she's kicking me out. You better leave my effing house, this and that and that and that and that.
Well, had you said to her, you're going to need the cops to drag me out?
Huh?
Did you ever say to her?
That.
Okay.
I said, what if I don't get apartment by the 30th? You better get out of my effing house, this, that, and she was just carrying on.
Essentially, you are a landlord and you are a tenant, Ms. Stevenson. So, Ms. Ferguson, you did the right thing when you gave her 30 days notice because, you have to give her notice. So she gives you 30 days notice and you are allowed to stay, uncomfortable as it may be, until the 30th. You make a decision that you're going to leave on the 5th, but you can stay until the 30th, just like the notice says. That's on you that you decided to leave. I would leave too, so I'm not criticizing you for that decision, but you don't get to then get back your rent because she didn't say get out now. She said you got until the 30th. So you wouldn't get your rent back in a situation like that. Now let's talk about the security deposit. She showed me some pictures that show the way you left it. Why did you leave it that way? Why wasn't it neater?
I didn't leave the place messy.
Okay, so she's just taking pictures of a few of her clothes on the floor and of garbage she swept up and pinning it on you.
She did that.
Okay.
I did not do that. I just took my stuff and I left.
It's always a good idea whenever you leave a tenancy to take pictures of how you leave it.
Yeah, that's true. That's my bad.
I'm gonna, Ms. Ferguson, you are allowed to keep the $1,100 for rent. I didn't see $200 worth of damage that would allow you to charge and keep the security deposit. I'm ordering you to return the security deposit to the plaintiff. So the net judgment then is in favor of the plaintiff, not in the amount that she's suing for, but in the amount of $200. That's the right decision. That's the one I'm making.
Thank you.
So the plaintiff prevails. She only gets $200 back. So, Ms. Stevenson, let me ask you, do you think you made too quick a decision to get together with her in a relationship?
Listen, she wanted me to marry her, and I was telling her that, first of all, it's too early for that. I am not interested in getting married because I wanted to know her more, get to know her more.
Yeah. That's a good point. All right.
Yes.
Let me talk to Ms. Ferguson. Ms. Ferguson, how do you feel about the outcome of this case? You got to give her $200. That is the plaintiff.
That's fine. I just want it over and behind me. And I will never, ever make that decision again to bring somebody in my place. Because all I did was try to help Miss Stephenson, and all she was ungrateful. But at this point, I've moved on with my life, and I'm glad it's over and it's behind me.
I understand. All right, that'll bring this amazing case to a close. Let's see what Harvey has to say about it. Harvey, what are your thoughts?
Doug, here's the thing. The plaintiff didn't get the money for the rent because bottom line is she could have stayed in the apartment. There was nothing forcing her to leave. That was her choice. It may be uncomfortable to stay or some kind of a strain, but a contract is a contract. End of story. We'll see you next time.